Christian designer who won't make same-sex wedding websites loses case. On July 26th, the U.S. Court of Appeals held the lower court's decision to deny a web designer's petition to discriminate against the LGBTQ plus community in Colorado. The owner of a web designing business, Lori Smith, contested the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act, or CADA for short, by filing suit, alleging that it is her right to deny LGBTQ couples service to design a wedding website for them. She stated that she is, quote, willing to work with all people regardless of sexual orientation, but she adds that her religious beliefs compel her to exclude anything to do with same-sex weddings. Denver's Court of Appeals rejected Smith's request for a pre-enforcement ruling that would allow her to provide services that hinge on a client's identity as she prepares to broaden her business by offering websites detailing nuptial celebrations. Alliance Defending Freedom, a law firm exclusive to cases of quote-unquote religious freedom, argues that Smith's Christian beliefs would be violated if her business is forced to comply with existing anti-discrimination laws.
So is this kind of like more like the kind of discrimination where you're supposed to serve everybody regardless of their identity? Yeah, because this is, I think, like I think I'm becoming more accepting at considering this discrimination against LGBT people, because I used to think like, you shouldn't be able to, the government shouldn't be able to force you to say certain things, even if it's, express certain things. Like, for example, if you are baking a cake, if you're baking a cake for straight couples, you should be able to be able to bake the same cake for, okay, I'm not actually sure what I think about this. Okay, so I used to think like, if your business is that you bake cakes, if a straight couple comes and asks for a baked cake and a gay couple comes ask for a cake, then if you don't make a gay cake for the gay couple, then that's discrimination, and that should be illegal, okay? Because it's the same service, and you're denying it to a certain group of people because of their biological identity, okay? However, if then the people ask you to write on the cake that, happy gay wedding, right? Then you are asking them to say something that goes against their belief, right? And that is demanding them to do something demanding them to express an opinion that it doesn't represent them, might be going a bit too far. As long as, if the service is the same, if you deny it to one group of people, is discrimination. And then, but if you're asking an artist or a cake designer, or like somebody that prints pamphlets to say something now, that is, you can't force them to say that thing. But I don't know if that is fair now, because if you write on a cake something, that's not you saying it, right? That's them saying it, right? And it's also not fair to compare it to, like, okay, then what if you're an atheist and somebody Christian comes and says, like, print pamphlets for our church, and you're like, but I'm an atheist, I don't want to promote your bull crap, right? You should be able to say that. You should be like, as an atheist, I don't want to promote your church's bullcrap, so you can't force me to print these. Is that anti-Christian discrimination? That's not a fair comparison, because Christianity is an ideology, right? So not, and being gay is not an ideology. That's discrimination based on people's biological identity, right? So I think, like, maybe I'm now okay with also considering it discrimination, even if somebody says, like, make a cake that says, yay, we're gay and happy. And if you don't write that, if your job is to design cakes, then you're discriminating. I think I'm okay with, like, somebody saying that, write Allah is the greatest, right? And if you say, I don't want to write that, that's okay, because that's an expression of an ideology, right? But if you say, I don't want to write that because I'm against, gay marriage, then that's discrimination against someone's biological identity. That is discrimination. So one of them is not discrimination, the other one isn't, right? So I'm trying to figure out, but making and again, you're saying like, but I don't want to say this because this is not my belief. That's not you saying it. You're designing it for somebody else who's saying it. So I think the excuse that this is not my belief, so I don't want to say it. No, you're like, if I print your pamphlets that says something on it, that's not my expression. I'm just helping you express something. Like, I'm just printing what you're saying. Okay. So I think that's not a fair defense. So designing a website is also the same thing, right? Designing a website, you're not saying it, right? You're just, somebody else is saying it. So this can't be like, oh, this goes against my views, so I don't want to say it. Well, you're not saying it. Your job is to design websites. If you're not designing their website, you're discriminating against them because you're against this group of people, right? So you can't say this goes against my views, so I don't want to say it, because it's them saying it. Does that make sense? What do you think? Okay.
So the cake is like kind of different with the original very controversial baker refusing to make a gay wedding cake. I can't remember off the top of my head if there was something specifically very gay about the cake that couple wanted to be made, or if it was just like a normal white wedding cake that was just a normal cake, and then that couple just happened to be gay and that was refused. I can't remember that specific detail. Although we did cover a story where that baker was going to make a cake that was for a trans person that was pink and blue, and then they refused to make the cake after they found out that it was for a trans person when they'd previously agreed to it, not knowing that, and then declined to make it, which is clearly discrimination. And anyway, so this is a little bit different. So this woman has a wedding.
Can I address this before you go to this? Because this is, I don't think this is, do you saying the thing is, if you allow bakers to discriminate, what happens when it is the gas station or the pharmacy?
Different.
First of all, that's completely different. First of all, we're not saying, the question is not to allow whether we're allowing or not allowing bakeries to discriminate. The question is if this is discrimination, or if this is just somebody not being just withholding your right not to express something that they don't want to. Okay, that's the question. So what you're doing is a slippery slope fallacy, right? Like, no, it doesn't even have to get to the gas station for us to decide whether this was. It doesn't. No, first of all, that's completely something that's something different. Like, obviously it wouldn't. Obviously, in the United States, if somebody says like, I don't let you fill in gas here because you're gay, that's, nobody disputes that that's discrimination, right? That's obviously discrimination. The question is about a website or a cake. That's like, the Christian is now being involved in sending a message that they're saying is not in our belief. Like the case that you're saying, it's not, oh, if we do this, it's going to go there. No, because that is obvious discrimination, right? So the point that Christians are trying to make here is that this is a case of discrimination because you're making us do things that goes against our beliefs. Like, we're expressing ideas that are against our beliefs. But again, that is not a good defense for the Christians, because you're not expressing anything. You're just doing your job. And this is not an ideology. This is people's biological, inherent biological identities, right? So that's why it's different. But yeah, go on. Sorry,
firstly, I disagree that sexual orientation is inherent biological.
I noticed.
But that's besides the point.
I noticed that when I said it. So either biological identity or either biological. Two different things. Either biological traits or sexual identity. Okay, not that they're always the same thing. Yes, of course. Yes. So biological traits like ethnicity or something else, disability or sexual orientation, or other forms of identity, but not ideological based ones. But go on.
I just wanted to clarify some things about this case, because it is pretty different in some ways from the controversial baker case. So she is a wedding designer. and she was preparing to open an aspect of her business that would design wedding websites, which is apparently a thing. And she was preemptively trying to get ahead of the ball, so to speak, by trying to petition for basically an exemption from existing anti-discrimination laws, where, again, she hasn't started this aspect of her business yet, but she would be having something posted on her website that says that because of her beliefs, she does not provide the service to these people for this purpose, but she will design it for LGBT people for any other purpose. And again, it's that Smith's complaint alleges that requiring her to design for same-sex weddings would violate her right to free exercise of religion, and that a provision of the law prohibiting public accommodations from publishing any communication that indicates a person's patronage will be refused because of their sexual orientation violates her freedom of speech. So they're saying because I'm not allowed to post that I deny service to these people, that's violating my freedom of speech. So she's kind of making a free exercise claim and a freedom of speech claim.
Wait, so that means that I don't understand. Like, if I commit murder, this is illegal, and I can't post about it. It's illegal now because my freedom of speech. No. I could get in trouble. I don't understand. So I can't post. She's complaining that she can't post about the fact that she discriminated against a group of people because she could get in trouble by admitting it. I don't understand.
I'm no lawyer. Okay, I'm no lawyer. Okay. But to me, this sounds the equivalent of saying it violates my free speech that I'm not allowed to post a whites only sign out front of my business.
Okay, so
what I can't tell the difference between those two scenarios.
So basically it violates my free speech because I don't get to discriminate against a group of people.
Or openly advertise that I discriminate.
Yeah, so it's not, again, free speech, there's limits to free speech are when other crimes are being committed with your speech, right? Like, free speech is not absolute. Free speech, the limitations of free speech is other crimes, right? Not because it's speech, but because it's not being, your actions are not being limited because it's speech. Your actions are being limited because it's being covered under another law that has nothing to do with the mere limitations of your freedom of speech. For example, right? If I write on, this bottle that this cures cancer and then go sell it, and then I get arrested, you can't be like, well, it's my free speech to say that this cures cancer. Yeah, you're not you're not being arrested for for your speech is not being limited. You're being covered. The crime that is being committed here is that you use your speech to commit a scam, right? Or for example, if I say that, hey, John, here's $5,000, go take care of that person for me, right? And I didn't do anything myself. I just told this person to go do it. Like, if I get arrested, they're like, hey, all I did was speak. I didn't do anything other than speaking.
Well,
why am I being arrested?
A monetary offer.
Well, I didn't yet. I just said I would. But all I did was just talk. I was like, John, if you do that for me, I will give you $5,000. I didn't do anything. I just sat here and I just talked. And then he went and did. Was this a crime? Yes, it was a crime. But all I did was speak. So is this a free speech violation? No, it's being covered. You're being punished for another crime. All right. So again, if you go and say, like, we don't serve, I don't know, LGBT people here. Okay. You can't be like, that's my free speech to say that. Well, again, this is criminal, not because of any laws that exist that limits freedom of speech. This is another law that is being used to punish you. The other law is you're not allowed to discriminate, right? So your freedom, your right, your freedom of anything, not just speech, stops when other people's rights are being limited. Like when your freedom does not extend so far so much so that you have the freedom to violate other people's rights, right? That's the border, right? You have the freedom to do anything you want as long as you're not violating other people's rights and freedoms, right? So, and again, so you can't be like, but it's my freedom of speech. No, it's not. No, it's not. You're violating other people's rights. You're discriminating against them. So this is actually pretty obvious. I mean, so I think like I'm in favor of this lady losing the case. What do you think?
Yeah, I wanted to provide some more because I find this very interesting. The court agreed with Smith that requiring her to design websites for same-sex marriages could be considered compelled speech because the accommodation clause, quote, compels appellants to create speech that celebrates same-sex marriage, end quote, and it would, in effect, force them to create websites and thus speech that they would otherwise refuse. And she wrote, quote, because the accommodation clause compels speech in this case, it also works as a content-based restriction. Appellants cannot create websites celebrating opposite sex marriages, unless they also agree to serve customers who would request websites celebrating same-sex marriages. As a result, the court must subject the provision to strict scrutiny, under which it is deemed unconstitutional unless it serves a compelling state interest and is narrowly tailored as necessary to achieve that interest. So they're basically saying, okay, if you were forced to because she hasn't started this aspect of her business yet, but they're basically saying if you opened this aspect of your business, you have to provide it to both people. But if you were compelled to do it for same-sex people, if you would, then that would be unconstitutional. So basically, the conclusion is you just shouldn't open this aspect of your business altogether if you're not willing to do it for all people. That's the way I interpret it.
Okay, so wait, is it as part of the? That's a court. That's a court. Whose argument? So the court's case is that if you don't do this equally to everybody, you shouldn't open this business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is her argument, her side's argument, that she's being forced to express views against her will, correct?
If she had to do this for same-sex couples, yes, and the court agreed with that.
Wait, I don't understand. I thought I thought the court didn't agree with her. I thought you're saying that she was saying that if I open this, you're forcing me to say things that I don't like. But she lost the case. So what are you saying the court agreed with her
on? Wait, to be clear, I'm not. There are different levels of court, and I'm not sure which one I was just citing. So my apologies for that confusion.
No worries.
But they threw out her claim for her attempt to get this exemption.
Right. So for people who might be wondering, if her claim is that you're forcing me to say things that I don't want to say, no, you're not forced to say things you don't want to say because you don't have to have this job, right? Or you could just not do weddings, I guess. Yeah, so you could go get another job, right? Like if your job is to make cakes, then make cakes. If your job is to, you can't be like, you're forcing me to serve, I don't know, this people here. Well, if you don't, that's illegal. Just like, Catholic churches, you're like, oh, we don't want to do these services in our, Catholic hospitals. When they say like, you're forcing us to do things that are against our beliefs. Well, you don't have to be a hospital, I guess. This is what hospitals are. These are the services hospitals have to provide, right? Yeah, I mean, and for people who say that, I hope also nobody thinks like, I heard like, so you're saying, I don't know if this is what you were suggesting, but I felt like you were saying that if anybody, they might suggest that you also get forced to, nobody forces people to make websites for straight people, right? Like if somebody wants to make some website for gay people, right? And if you're straight and you come and say like, well, you have to make a website for us too. And they're like, no, we just make websites for gay people. That is allowed. because straight people are not a protected class. Like, I hope people understand the difference between, when it comes to anti-discrimination laws are meant to protect protected classes, not other classes. Anyways,
I have one
go
more
on.
point I want to make. I just think it's really funny when people are fighting so hard for exemptions to anti-discrimination laws because of their beliefs. It's like, what does that reflect on your beliefs?
Exactly.
Everything I need
Do you
to know
think it should?
personally.
Do you think she should? So do you agree with this, that she should not be able to do this? Personally, you think that I agree with that?
I don't know. It's very tricky because by providing a service, you're not explicitly agreeing with what is being said here. You know, if there's all over this website like, I support gay marriage and that's why we're getting gay marriage, well, like, that's different. But just the fact
but
that,
even if you did,
you
you should be able to. You should make it. Yeah,
it's really
it's
tricky.
not yours. I used to think it's tricky, but now I think, like, you make it's very obvious that you are discriminating against a group of people. Nobody thinks that if you make a website saying that I support gay marriage, that's literally you saying it. So make the website. Just make the website, or close the business. What is the punishment for this? Like, what are the consequences for this person?
Well, she was attempting to preemptively get an exemption, essentially.
Oh my god! So she's like, I know I'm such a bigot.
Actually committed discrimination against anyone already because she wasn't offering these services yet.
Right. This is
but
like,
she basically wanted to put she wanted to basically put a straights only sign, straight weddings only sign on her services website.
Yeah. So this is like, I'm so committed to my bigotry that I want to get a license. That I'm preemptively, with that, before I even commit bigotry, I want to go get a license for it. This is basically what's happening here.
You spend a lot of money on legal fees.
I just know I'm a bigot. Guys, this is, when people say, like, it goes against our religious beliefs, this is another way of saying, like, we have bigoted beliefs, right? Like, hey, you know what? I'm completely for them not being allowed to do this, because no other way would this be accepted. Like, if we didn't have Christianity, this is like religious privilege. If this was accepted, this would be a form of religious privilege, right? Because imagine if you didn't have Christianity, what argument would you have to make for the court? Dear judge, my client here is a bigot, and it will go against her bigotry, her deeply held bigoted views, to make this website. So she wants a legal exemption because her bigoted views would not let her make this website. Like, people like, no, we're not going to give you exemptions, right? So it's only when people say, like, sorry, let me rephrase that. It's Christianity. Like, oh, okay, here's your exemption then. So, or like, so, like, no, like, if you can't, okay, if you can't get exemption without mentioning Christianity or Islam or whatever else, then you shouldn't. If you can't get an exemption through other ways, then Islam or Christianity should not be a license for you to get that exemption, right? So this is also a way to fight against religious privilege. Yeah, I think that was very well put by myself. So.
Okay.
Here.
Mega Leech is saying also, by make this case, they may just be getting notoriety like advertising. We are talking about it after all. You have a point, Mega Leech.
Oh yeah.
It's also really funny when people fight so hard to exclude potential clientele from themselves. Like, this is in this economy.
They just love Jesus. You just don't understand the love of Jesus. You just don't get it.
I don't. I actually don't. That's why I'm here.
Oh, look, Secular Rarity thinks I was on point. Secular Rarity is just our cheerleader, just the live chat. It's just like, woo, Sus, yay, woo, Armin. I love it. All right. Oh, thank you, Cool Cat. Thank you.
Hey guys, if you're a fan of Blasphemy and Sexy Callie, like me, then you need to be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description below. Because if you subscribe, we will send you a free copy of our Blasphemous Art ebook. And let me tell you, it is the tastiest blasphemy that you can find anywhere available today. And we are so generous with our blasphemy that we continue to send you more blasphemy every week. So make sure to subscribe, link in the description below.